So James Deen there is kind of oozing Bret Easton Ellis, and I'm wondering, how did you two connect to start this?
Well, it's an interesting story, and it's one that speaks to the moment where we are in film history, and the death of the idea of film as we used to know it, and the birth of something else. And I had you're going to be kind of a potted plant here.
That's what I do best.
Okay. I had begun in the studio industry. I'd done 5 studio films. And then the industry changed, and for 20 plus years I was involved in independent films. And then the industry changed again. I thought that I would be able to ride out the old, broken horse of cinema into a kind of sunset. But in fact, that horse broke down so fast that it never made it to the sunset. And it became clear that you had to, if I was going to finish out my career making films, I would have to rethink how it was done. And I was supposed to do a film that Bret had written called Bait in San Juan with Spanish money, and then there was problems with the euro and it fell through. And it was the second film in a row that I had that had fallen through, and Bret had some. And I sent him an email and I said, Bret, what you do is not that expensive. Beautiful people, bad things, nice rooms. How expensive is that? You write a script. I'll direct it. We'll pay for it ourselves. The technology is such now that we can actually make this film ourselves. We don't have to get anybody's permission. We don't have to get any kind of actor's approval or anything. We'll just make the film. And that's how it started. And we pulled in a third partner, and the 3 of us put in some money, not much. I think it ended up being around $30,000 each. And we made the film. And we did it all in a kind of DIY way. We raised the money on the web through Kickstarter. We cast on the web through a place called Let It Cast. We got 600 auditions from around the world. We crewed up on the web. People, we paid minimum wage, so that was about $100 a day. And because we had, essentially were casting on the web, everyone knew the rules, which is, your own transportation, your own hair, makeup, wardrobe, and nudity and simulated sex and so forth, and it all, we got very lucky. Now, is this a repeatable thing? I'm not quite sure. Part of me says, wow, we pulled it off. We sold the film to IFC for $1 million. So everybody's in profit. The film hasn't even come out yet. But, in some ways I also feel like I walked into a casino and put my house on red and won. And the stupidest thing I could do is make a second bet. Because you're never going to win that second bet. And the fact that it worked out when so many things should have not worked out. We shot without insurance, and we shot, with Lindsay and James, and but it did work out. And the proof. I'm telling you, it worked out, but the proof will be, in the film. But I feel very good about the film. And it certainly worked out financially, and I think it worked out creatively as well. And Originally, Bret has this notion that he calls post-empire, and we call this is a post-empire production. By post-empire, he means that America in the 21st century is like the UK in the 20th century. That is, it is living off the artistic life of a previous time, a previous generation. So we here in the 21st century in the U.S., Canada, we're living off our halcyon days from the last century. And this idea of a post-empire production, the detritus of a once great culture, as we got into it, and we gave the script to Lindsay just to play a cameo, and she came back and she said, I don't want to play a cameo, I want to do the lead. And then Bret had this fascination with a male porn star named James Deen, who's the actor here. And I started to think, this is really post-empire. You take somebody from the celebrity culture, and you take somebody from the adult movie world, and you put them together in this kind of highbrow Bret Schrader thing, and this is like a post-empire film. And so that's when the idea of that casting started taking charge. The thing with James, it was very strange because after I induced Bret to write this script, he was writing it, and he tweets a lot. He has a very promiscuous Twitter finger. And so he tweeted that I'm writing a script, and the model for the main character is this male porn star, James Deen, with 2 E's. And sure enough, James Deen tweets back. And he says, I can't wait to read it. Well, Bret and James had never met, and so now Bret gets to meet his porn star idol. Now, Bret has a boyfriend, James is straight. In porn, you don't cross over. You do gay porn, you do straight porn, but you don't do both. So James does straight porn, so it's not really so much a sexual thing. But so Bret meets him, and James is kind of impressive in person. His parents both teach at Caltech. His dad literally is a rocket scientist. His mother is in cancer research. Good Jewish boy from Pasadena. And Bret is really struck with James. And he said, well, Schrader will give you a screen test. And and Bret's my partner, so he said, you have to give him a screen test. I said, Bret, really, come on. This guy's made 3,000 films. That's a lot of pool boys, and that's a lot of pizza delivery boys. I don't know how much bad acting you can get out of your system. But Bret said, test him. And I tested him, and he was really good. I couldn't believe it. I tested him again. And then I started thinking, maybe this is it. If you can't take a chance with your own money, when can you take a chance? And so we made the film with James, and really we got lucky. So that's the sort of journey on this film so far. We had to look. The new technology allows people to make films very, very cheaply. But it also unhinges the vital connection that has existed for 100 years between capitalism and motion pictures. Motion pictures are the product of capitalism. If you will pay to see the movie, we will make it for you. movies have only existed under the mandate of capitalism. All of a sudden now we are free. We are now unencumbered. We can now make movies the same way you make poetry, songs, paintings. You can make it for nobody. You can make it for nothing. You can make it for no audience whatsoever. Well, on one hand, that's enormously freeing. And on the other, it's a very crushing mandate, because at least I have always thought about movies as something that's being made for other people, not for myself. And in the 1930s, there was a movement called camera stilo, meaning camera pen. And the idea was that the camera could, in fact, be like a pen. But it never was, because the pen cost $1 million. And I remember I was talking to Scorsese a year or two ago, and I said, remember, when we used to talk about camera stilo and what a wonderful thing that would be? Well, now we have it. But we never meant it, did we? We never really wanted to make films for ourselves as opposed to audiences. We always really wanted to make films for audiences. But now we are in an era where you can make a film for nobody. And if you've ever been around any kind of film school, you can see the proof of this. Because you are surrounded by film students who are making films that not even they would see. And they're making films for nobody. So now, all these films are being made for nobody. 12,000 of them submitted to Sundance this year. Of that 12,000, Sundance shows maybe less than 100. Of that 100, 8 or 10 get distributed. Of that 8 or 10, 2 or 3 make money. Those are the new economics of film. How, in this vicious environment, do you get your head above the crowd? How do you get anybody to notice your film? Sure, true enough, you can make your film with your iPhone. You can make it with, your friend's money and your Kickstarter money. But how do you ever get anybody to see it? So the entire dilemma of filmmaking has changed. It used to be, how do you get the money to make the film? Now it's, how do you get anybody to see it once you make it? Film festivals used to be a place you went to get your film known. Well, one of the things we ran into with the Canyons is that we became so well known through social media that we, in fact, didn't want to go to film festivals because we would be wasting money. We got turned down by Sundance and by South by Southwest, which was in a way fortuitous, because we realized that if we had gone, we would have just spent a bunch of money, and it wouldn't have helped us at all, because we would not have become, all we would have gotten is this sort of snarky reaction. And why spend $100,000 to go to a film festival, and when you only spent $90,000 to make the film? So, and so we turned around and just put it up for sale and sold it to IFC. And virtually everything that I have learned in the last 40 years about filmmaking doesn't apply. Whether that be editing, cinematography, directing, there's very, very little that I think can really be gleaned from the history of films. Now, I know film history very, very well, and I can quote you text and verse on any number of film classics, but I don't think it necessarily applies. It's great to know film history, but the idea of the old system, we don't know what films are anymore. When I came into the film industry in the 60s, early 70s. It was a period of crisis, and it was a crisis of content, which was that there were new themes coming up. The sexual revolution, the drug revolution, the anti-war revolution, the civil rights, etc., gay rights. And out of these new themes, we needed new heroes, we needed new movies. And my generation created new heroes, we created new movies. And it was a very exciting time, and we created a bunch of new movies, and it was exciting for about 10 or 15 years. Now we're in an equal period of crisis, only it is not a crisis of content, it is a crisis of form. And a crisis of form is far less interesting than a crisis of content, because we don't know what movies are anymore. We don't know how long they are. We don't know how you see them. We don't know how you pay for them. We don't know how you collect revenue. YouTube is a movie, and so is Mad Men, and so is Oblivion. They're all movies now. And we're inventing what audiovisual entertainment is as we go along. And some people think that we are in a period of transition, but I don't even think that's true. I think we're in a period of permanent change now. I think that whatever you believe about filmed entertainment is going to be morphing for the rest of your lives so fast that it will never really ever settle down. And that we will constantly be living in a fungible world of film entertainment, whether it's in glasses or whether at some point you get a USB port in the side of your head. And it's very, very exciting, but anybody who thinks that movies as we know them have a future, I don't agree with that. I mean, movies as I know them are a 20th century phenomenon. So that's my good news.
It's a nice note to leave things on.